Yo guys, what is up? Today I come to you yet with another weekly review of All Out, and we are at episode 20, and our boys have finally won. After my live reaction, and I did say in the live reaction that a win is a win even though it was a practice game, because if you know the history of Jinko, they never won a game, whether it was an official match or a practice match. They have never won. I also assume that they never won since the beginning or the formation of this team within the school. So for them, this is something huge. This is life-changing for this team. For a team that has always been on the losing side, been at the end of the stick, for them to experience what it's like to be the victor at the end of the day for the very first time is groundbreaking for them, and they don't know how to handle that. And I'm glad Ten Jinko showed good sportsmanship, and they actually were proud that Jinko won. They showed that you saying, Jinko, you're a strong team, and we're sorry that we underestimated you, and we hope to play against you again one day. And they go off on their own, and then we have the moment where, because this is the first time that they win, they don't know how to handle that. And it's kind of like, since we've been on this journey since October, and we experience where they always lose, we understand where they were coming from. So we didn't know how to react during that scene, because for them it's like it's a strange, uncharted territory that they have befallen upon. They don't know what it's like to win. They don't know what it's like to be successful in the area of rugby. So for the moment, they are unclear on how they should react. And then we have where Coach Komori breaks the ice, and he goes on to say, he says that there was an unspoken rule in rugby, and that's to say to not celebrate your victories too much, and that you should show consideration for your opponent. And the way I interpret that is, there's nothing wrong with celebrating whenever you win a game, but don't exaggerate on it, don't elaborate on it so much, because sometimes that can be showing as you being a show off, that every time you win, you have to make everyone know that you have won. And you should do it in moderation, and you should always, like he said, taking consideration of your opponents, because sometimes that could probably rub them off on the wrong way. And so he asks Sekizan, are you happy that you won? And Sekizan, just like us, shouts yes. He is very happy. And I did tear up a little bit at that part, because it's like I said, it's been so long, and I was so happy that they have finally won a game. So it was a really joyful moment. And Coach Komori says, well, why don't you go show that you won, you idiots? And he showed a very playful side to him. So possibly off screen, he has shown a playful side, or a different side to him that we don't see him do much towards the team, but the team does know he cares for them a lot. So they're all celebrating, being joyful about their first win, eating, talking, and doing all of that stuff. And I want to see them continuously do that even when they do lose, I don't want them to react in a sad way. I want them to get something meaningful out of it, as well as when they do win a game, they still receive something of meaning out of that game, and they use whatever they learn from that game for as strategy for the next game. So we get into the episode, later into the episode, which I never would have thought, but knowing All Out and the fact that they actually, explored secondary characters, meaning the coach and the advisor, which most sports anime do not do. We have where the coach of Ten Jinko, we actually got some character development from him, and got to know who he was. Something that I was surprised, but at the same time not so surprised. So Coach Futanami decided to have a drink with both Coach Komori and Yoshida Sensei. So it was like a guys' night out after, the game that happened earlier in the day. And they're there talking, drinking beer like grown men. And we kind of find out some information about Futanami Sensei and the fact that he's kind of on the same boat as Yoshida Sensei. Now, one thing is that they're both the same age, which you would have never thought if he had never said that. And the fact that the reason why I say they're similar is because we know how Yoshida Sensei was when he first became an advisor. He was very enthusiastic about helping Jinko's rugby team in order for them to do better at their practices and when they are training for their games. And we know how they treated him in the end. They didn't want to listen to him and they pushed him aside, of course, and then he acted hostile towards the team till Coach Komori came into the picture. In Futanami's case, he was a very enthusiastic coach. He started teaching 4 years prior to the storyline, and when he became a coach, he wanted to be involved with his team. He would go after school, go to each individual's houses, and kind of talk to them, and tell them things, and just try to be more involved with his team, with his students. And, at first that seemed to work when he was like coaching the team during that time. But the stronger they had become, the more arrogant they became. And we saw that happen during the match between the two schools. That their arrogance is what led them to lose. That was their downfall, because each individual is skilled, but because they did not have that cooperation, they were not formed as a unit as Jinko was. That's why they were unable to win at the end of the day, and that's why Jinko won, because in terms of individual skill, they have Jinko beat, but in terms of teamwork skills, Jinko has them beat. And Futanami was frustrated because the more they got stronger, they started not to listen to him. They pushed aside his advice. They would actually backtalk him, and when he's trying to teach them that, you have to learn the fundamentals, they will argue with him saying that we don't need to learn that. We want to learn the more difficult techniques. And so basically he had his hands tied behind his back. But thank God for Coach Komori being the oldest character in the series, because he has been there, done that. He has coached, and now he came out of retirement to coach Jinko. So, and he also played rugby, so he's seen these things over the years. And the type of advice that he gave to Coach Futanami, knowing that he is still very young, is that it's okay if you want to be like an older brother figure, but as their coach, as an adult, these children have expectations for you, that you can't keep on trying to level yourself, put yourself at the same level of them. The children have people at the same level of them, their own teammates, their own fellow classmates. The reason why you're an adult, there's a term of child and adult, is because they need someone to look up to. They need someone that can guide them. And as their coach, as a teacher, you must be able to surprise them. They have such high expectations of adults. Children have such high expectations that you always have to try to exceed them. And you exceeding them will cause them, like a chain reaction, will cause them to say, I wonder what this person is going to do next. And that will make them follow you in your steps. So, like Coach Komori was saying, that there's nothing wrong with your methods, but it's basically you have to take a much more firmer stand in how you approach these boys. And how Futanami Sensei said, because he knew that, they were so good, he always wanted them to lose, which was not a bad thought, because they were acting very arrogant. They felt they were a little bit too much into themselves. And the fact that they did lose to Jinko, they reverted back to how they originally were. They were actually a lot more humble. They acted like actual children, not adults with burdens on their shoulders. And so now they're actually talking strategies. They're talking about what they did right from what they did wrong. They're arguing with each other like kids, like boys should. So he was actually happy that they lost. And I really like the talk between these two coaches, like an older coach and a younger coach, giving him advice. So it was a pretty nice segment that was in this episode. And the fact that Yoshida Sensei cannot hold his liquor for anything. This guy, when he wakes up next morning, he's going to have a massive hangover. That's all I gotta say. But this week's episode was a pretty funny episode. It was a laid back episode after the events of the practice match between the two schools. And of course, our team has won, and we're looking to see them play against another school. I forgot what their name was, but possibly next episode we'll have the starting of a next match. But nonetheless, this was a pretty amazing episode as always. So if you guys saw this week's episode of All Out, episode 20, do drop a comment down below on how you felt about this week's episode. And you can check out the links in the description box. And I'm Kimmy Chan of Anime Legends Podcast. And I will see you guys later. Bye!